Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for coming. Sorry for the slightly late start. Had a few technical issues. Part of this presentation involves an online demo, and we've had some problems with internet connection, which is a bit of an issue, but we've solved it now. So I'll probably need to crack on because obviously we're starting 5 minutes late. I'm here today to talk to you about how you can increase engagement with your prospects and customers, and how you can improve your return on investment through personalisation. So to open this, the Direct Marketing Association did a survey they call a gap report. And part of the gap report is to look at what influences people to respond to direct marketing, whether that be direct mail, email marketing, and the like. And they wanted to understand what are the key factors in people responding. The most important factor actually was brand recognition, and you perhaps understand that. If you receive communication from a brand that you recognise and trust, you're more likely to respond to them. But when you strip brand recognition out of the equation, personalisation was the next most important factor. So using personalisation effectively can get your customers and prospects to respond and engage with you. I want to briefly look at the communications between you as a marketing manager or marketing executive, between you and your customer, and how personalisation has evolved over the years. And it really started to come into play back in the 1980s, and it was as sophisticated as sticking a address label on an envelope, and that's about all you could really do back then, certainly en masse. But when the 1990s came along, sort of, desktop, PC revolution, software revolution, the use of word processing software enabled people to do more personalisation and use variable text. So you could go from beyond just sticking a label on an envelope to actually personalising a letter, and not just saying hi John or dear John, but actually pulling in some text content into the letter to make it more relevant to people. As we sort of hit the turn of the millennium, things changed drastically. Obviously, email marketing started to come into play, and the use of database technology meant that you could start to personalize your emails, you could pull in text content, and actually variable images as well. And also within print, you could start to pull in variable images. So it enabled you to create very personalized mailing or email pieces that would go out to your customers and prospects. But technology continues to evolve, and probably one of the most recent developments in personalisation technology is the use of PURLs, or personalised URLs. It'd be quite interesting just to get a feel for people here. Has anyone heard of PURLs before? Can I have a show of hands of people who have heard of them? Okay, each year there's a few more. And any of you using them at all, or have used them? One or two, okay. 2 years ago, no one had heard of them, no one was using them, and you're going to start to probably see more use in terms of personalisation. And the difference between inbound personalisation and outbound personalisation is at the moment you might send a fully personalised mailing or email piece to your customers and prospects. You might be looking to drive them online. They come back to your website, and when they get there, they're faced with a generic website. So you've gone to all the effort of understanding who your customers and prospects are, looking to communicate with them in a language in a way that they might understand and respond. They come back to your website, and that's all lost. And when you use PURLs, it enables them to come back to a personalised website. So it kind of completes the personalised experience. But we can't talk about personalisation without talking about data first. Data drives personalisation. Obviously, the more data you have, or the more in-depth demographics that you have on your customers and prospects, the more you can personalise. Big data is probably something that you've heard of. It's certainly something that's coming to the forefront. There are a number of talks on big data at the show. And big data is all about the more and more data being available to marketeers. In the last 2 years, 90% of the data that's in the world today has been created. And all of that's driven by things such as social media. The use of Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn is increasing the amount of data available to marketeers. And so in the States, the US DMA and a company called Nearlane conducted some surveys to try and understand what the benefits of data are to marketing. And one of the most significant factors or benefits for the marketeer was that using data or utilizing data gives you better insight into your customer behavior. And you'd probably expect that to be the case. But the actual largest factor was using data to drive greater campaign conversion rates. Now, part of that is using data in terms of understanding who your customers and prospects are to get your proposition right and get your messaging right. but it's also about using data in a way where you can actually drive response, and that's really where personalisation comes in. Because if you've got the data and you can use it and you can create effective communications, you are going to drive more campaign conversions and get a response on your ROI. I'll skip through the next two because they're pretty much other and not really sure. But the key factor from this research, which was done across the top 1,000 chief marketing officers in the United States, was that data can be used to drive greater conversion rates. And it's our belief that it's by using personalisation that you can actually deliver that. I want to look at offline personalisation, and some of you may be using this, some of you might not, and look at how offline personalisation can be used. Essentially, currently, really it's just a case of using variable text and variable imaging. Are any of you using personalisation in any of your direct marketing communications? Okay, well, so it's probably less than I expected. How many of you have a customer or prospect database? And how many of you are using that database to drive your communications? So there's a little bit, just looking around, there's a little bit of a gap between those that have a database and those that are using it to drive personalisation. Just another interesting sort of just show of hands. How many of you are still using direct mail as a medium? So a fair few. Email marketing? Okay, majority seem to be using email marketing. In terms of offline personalisation, by using a database and understanding your customers, you can deliver a communication that's relevant to them or more relevant to them. We did some work recently with a holiday company where we could look at the database, look at where people have been on holiday and build a profile of what sort of holidays they might be interested in, whether it's looking at age groups. Perhaps if they're more elderly, they might be interested in cruise holidays. Obviously, if they're younger, they might be interested in the Club 1830 type holidays, whether they like skiing or whether they like summer holidays. And by using that information, you could run a campaign and drop variable content in. So it might be, for example, if I was perhaps 19, 20 years old and I like beach holidays, I would be given the Club 1830 offering. But it's all driven as part of the same campaign. And the reason being is obviously in terms of those of you who are using direct mail, postage discounts can be gained for volume. You can do lots of small niche campaigns, but you're not going to get the discounts for volume on postage. Where if you put all of those campaigns into one campaign, you can get the postage discounts, but deliver a succinct message to different audiences and use personalisation to do that. But you can take it one step further. You might have another person in that group where you perhaps understand where they went last year, and you can perhaps bring their past behaviour into your future campaigns. An example of this was where we did work with a holiday company where we looked at what hotel they'd stayed at the previous year and pulled in the imagery and pictures of that hotel, saying, this is where you stayed last year, this is where you went on holiday with us last year, and then look at similar types of hotels they might not like to book next year and bring that into the creative. So the overall campaign was, the idea of the overall campaign was to sell holidays, but it was to make the offer more personal. And what we found is the response rates trebled, quadrupled, simply because people would get their mailer, they would look at it and they'd think, hey, yeah, this is where we went last year. They're suddenly interested. Suddenly this company is showing interest in us and they're looking at what we've done and they're thinking about where we might like to go next year. And we found that it lifted engagement with the organisation. So offline, and for those of you using direct mail, by using variable text and variable imagery and using a database effectively, you can deliver very, very specialised, very specific communications to your customers and prospects. Now, online personalisation, obviously mentioned the use of pearls, and I want to give you a quick demonstration as to how you can use personalised URLs to drive a personalised online experience. Before we do this, currently, those of you in the audience, are you currently identifying people who are visiting your website? Are any of you using cookies, for example? Not many. Do many of you have logins on your website where people are required to log in? Not many. But for those that do, you're able to identify people. For those that don't have a login system, or you don't have existing customers that can log in, or you don't want to use cookies, the only way you can track customers or prospects or website visitors is by using things like Google Analytics. How many people here have used or are familiar with Google Analytics? So quite a few of you. And it's a useful way to identify people. But in a business-to-business perspective, if someone from Lloyds Bank visits your website, that's great. Someone from Lloyds has visited your website. What you don't know is which one of the 100,000 employees has actually come into your website. So you can't really do much. It's useful feedback, but you can't really do so much with it. So what I'm going to do now is do a Perl demonstration, show you how Perls can be used and how you can personalize your websites. And hopefully, I've still got an internet connection. Yes. Okay, this is a site that we use to show how Perls might work. And it's a fairly standard site. It's what you'd expect to see. There's some graphics and a banner going on. There's some text explaining what a Perl is. We've got a couple of forms on here that people could fill in and submit data. And that's what you'd expect to see from any website, really. But what we want to do now is we want to, rather than sending out a generic website, useperls.com, we want to create URLs that are unique to your customers and prospects so that you could send them that URL and drive them back to a personalized website. So what we need to do, and to prove I haven't had a Blue Peter moment and prepared one earlier, we need to create a fictitious person who we're going to create a personalized URL for. So I need a little bit of audience participation. So would someone like to volunteer me a first name? Anything? Jack Frost. Okay, we'll go Jack Frost. I never quite know what we're going to get when we do this, so I'm quite pleased with that. Jack Frost. And where does Jack Frost work? Iceland, okay? You've been to see The Guardians, haven't you? Yeah. And what does Jack Frost do? Freeze things? We'll go with that. And for the purpose of this, just in case there is a Jack Frost, and just in case he does freeze things and he works at Iceland, or lives in Iceland, I'm just going to blank out these. We don't really want to spam anyone if they really do exist. Okay, so what we're doing here is we're capturing information we know about Jack Frost. Now, if you're using a database to drive your direct marketing, you will already have data available. And what we're trying to do is create a URL that we know is unique to Jack Frost. Now, in order for this to work, you essentially need to make sure that the URL is unique to that person. So we've got a number of different conventions we could use, such as Jack-Frost, Jack Frost, Jack_Frost. But the system has returned Jack-Frost. So we can take Jack-Frost, and we can switch back to our web browser. And currently, we've got a generic domain. If Jack Frost was to respond to email marketing via a Perl or via his direct mail, he would come in and have a personalized version of the site. Now, this is a very sort of basic demonstration of personalization, but probably the first thing you notice is we're pulling in some graphics and changing the graphics and personalizing them to Jack. Now, if you think of that holiday company as an example, if we knew Jack was interested in skiing holidays, we could put up pictures of the Alps. If it was beach holidays, probably would be skiing holidays, actually, being Jack Frost. But if you did want a summer vacation, we could pull up pictures of the beach. So we can basically tailor the content based upon what we know about him. But we can also create that personalized feel. So we're welcoming Jack to the site. Hi, Jack. Welcome to our site. And further down within the text, we've popped in Hi, Jack. I don't know if you can see that on the mouse pointer. But again, it's enabling us to basically personalize the content. Now, it can be used in lots of different ways. For example, you could be a conference company and you could be running a conference on oil and gas, and you might have people that are interested in oil and those interested in gas. You're promoting the same event. It's all about oil and gas. But you've got two different target audiences within that event, and you can then drive them to this site and pull up the content that's relevant to them. So if I'm a gas industry executive, I'm interested in on the speakers that are going to talk about gas. I'm not interested in oil. Or if I'm on the oil side, I'd want to see more content on oil. So it enables you to not only create that sort of personalized feel, but deliver content that's relevant to people. And if you deliver content that's relevant to people, they're more likely to understand, they're more likely to interact, and they're more likely to engage. A number of other things we can do as well. If you notice, the forms are pre-populated, and research has shown that if you make it easier for people to respond to you, they're more likely to respond to you. And if you've completed the form for them, it's making it easier for them to respond. So it makes it much, much easier for people to respond. A one-click response. Someone comes back into the site, the form's filled in, they can hit submit, buy, or whatever the proposition is, and it's making it much easier for them to interact with you. The other thing we found as well is that when you actually pre-fill forms, whether you're doing it offline in direct mail or whether you're doing it online on a website, if you pre-fill forms, people are more likely to yield information to you. If you're showing them that you know something about them already and there's a few gaps, say, for example, the email address within the form is blank, they're more likely to yield it to you because you're kind of showing that you know them already. So there's an element of trust involved. They are also more likely to correct as well. So if the telephone number is and they see it's incorrect, they're more likely to put the correct telephone number in and submit a correct telephone number. So it helps with data capture and data cleaning. The other thing you can do with personalization, and when you use it effectively, certainly if you use it in an online context on Pearls, is because this URL is unique to Jack Frost, we can start to track his behavior. So it starts to take those of you using Google Analytics to another level, because you're not tracking on just an IP address that person who visited from Lloyd's Bank. You're starting to track individual people. And because you can do that, you can start to make the personalization more effective. So I can take Jack Frost, and I can open a new web browser, and we'll pop it in. Jack Frost has visited the website, he's gone away, he's made a cup of tea, he's watched EastEnders, he's come back, and he wants to visit the site again. Hopefully. So it's the internet connection. I'm keeping my fingers crossed the internet connection hasn't died. It has. Okay, you're going to have to take my word for this, I'm afraid, and hopefully it will come back. Essentially, what will happen, because we know Jack Frost has been in, when he comes back in, we can change the content on the site. So what should be happening now, if this internet connection was seamless, is that it would come back and it would say, "Welcome back, Jack." And essentially, what we're doing, because we know he's been on, we know he's come back, we can then start to change the content that we're showing, and deliver different content. So we know he's come back. I'm going to see if I can try and get it back. I hate live demonstrations. Technology is fantastic when it works. When it doesn't, it's dreadful. No, it's all gone. Okay, I'm going to switch back to the presentation, and I'll say you're going to have to take my word for it. Essentially, what happens is we know Jack's been away, we know he's come back, so we can change the messaging and say, "Welcome back, Jack." The other thing we can do is, because we're tracking what he's doing on the site, we can basically monitor what he's been looking at as an individual. And because we can do that, we can then serve up more relevant content. So let's say, well, I'll use the holiday one as an example now, because that's died. Let's say he goes onto the website and keeps looking at skiing holidays, but he hasn't been on a skiing holiday. And he keeps coming back and keeps searching, and keeps searching for prices, searching different resorts. We can capture that information in a database that sits, a content management system that sits on the back of that website. And rather than him coming back each time he comes back to the same page, same old page, we can start to change the content and say, Jack, we know you've looked at the site, we know you've looked at this type of holiday, have you thought about this resort? Have you thought about going this time of year? Looking at when you're going, this is the best deal. And so you can start to serve up content that's relevant to Jack based upon his behaviour. And anyone who's bought anything from Amazon will see that. Show of hands of people who've bought something off of Amazon. There must be lots. Yeah, okay, most people have. And when you buy something on Amazon and you go back perhaps a subsequent time, they're perhaps suggesting things to you that you might be interested based upon what your previous purchasing history. And because you have to have an account, and because you log in, and because they can identify you when you log in, it enables them to create that personalised experience and serve up things and products and offers that you might be interested in. And therefore, they're essentially cross-selling to you. And you're more likely to engage, you're more likely to respond. Now, the other part of the presentation, unfortunately, was a demonstration of personalised video. and that is not going to work now. So what I'm going to do is we capture everyone's details that have attended the seminar. So I'll follow this up with an email and give you your own personalised video to you, and also your own personalised website, so you can at least see how it works. I'm going to quickly talk about engagement and how you can improve engagement through personalisation and some of the results. There's a campaign that we ran for a client. And when people talk about engagement, you'll hear people talk about engagement a lot. Certainly in terms of online, it's all about getting people to your website. It's all about SEO. It's all about search. Things are changing now. It's about what are you going to do with people when you get there? How are you going to create that experience where they're going to engage? It's not just about traffic. It's about what are they going to do when they get there. And personalisation enables you to do that, because you can make your content more relevant. And if you make it more relevant, it's more interesting. If it's more interesting, people are more likely to interact. And if they're going to interact, they're going to engage. And if they're more likely to engage, they're more likely to convert and they're more likely to buy. Here's a recent campaign we did for the Institute of Engineering Technology. And the campaign went out to just over 4,000 people. It was a highly focused list, but within that list, over a quarter of people visited their unique website. And out of the people that visited the unique website, 962 actually downloaded the white paper, and that was the call to action, which is essentially an engagement rate of 95%. Most people we know of would get nowhere near that. But if data's worked effectively, and the communication is personalised and relevant to them, and the offer's relevant to them, the topic's relevant to them, and the whole experience is personalised, you can get better results.